Hi, this is Mark Malberg with Verified Technologies, and in this video we're going to take on the topic of calibration. Calibration is the process of setting the accuracy of the BrakeView system or matching the software with the probes so that our measurements are correct. Now, one of the most commonly asked questions regarding BrakeView is, how often should I calibrate? We don't really have an easy answer for that. Our best answer is you should calibrate with use, meaning every time you use the BrakeView system, you should calibrate it or at least check the calibration. We've provided a great tool inside the BrakeView software called Probe Verification, which gives you an easy way of checking the accuracy of the system. If the accuracy is not acceptable, you can proceed with a calibration, or you can go right ahead and use the system if you feel the accuracy is where you need it. We'll be checking out the probe verification in an upcoming video, but for now, let's take a look at the calibration process. To calibrate the BrakeView system, we're going to go to the calibration menu option and select it. And when we do that, we'll be presented with the two probes for the system. The arrow keys will help us choose the yellow probe or the blue probe. In this case, let's choose the yellow probe, and we are now in the calibration setup screen. From the calibration setup screen, we can see kind of a prompt that tells us or shows us a picture of two gauge blocks being swapped in and out of our fixture. That's what we're going to reproduce with the calibration fixture. So let's go ahead and mount our probe inside the calibration fixture and slide the gauge blocks back and forth under the probe and adjust the probe until the meter stays in range. Now, this is a quick process when you get used to it, but again, we're going to lock the probe in place where the two gauge blocks both remain in range on the actual meter for the probe. Once that's done, we need to take a quick final check of the gauge block values. Now, our gauge blocks have numbers printed on them, but that's not the most accurate value for each gauge block. We provide a certified value for our gauge blocks with the system, and in the future, when you send gauge blocks to be calibrated or if you purchase new gauge blocks, always use the certified value because it's much more accurate than the value printed on the blocks. So now that we're all set up, we are ready to move on and actually calibrate the system with the two gauge blocks. Now, the probe needs to be locked in place. We're not going to move the probe at all through this process, but let's go ahead and hit the next button and get ready to make the first measurement. Our first measurement is on the tall block, and it shows it on the screen. It prompts you in the lower right hand corner to insert the tall gauge block. So let's put that tall gauge block underneath the probe and hit the record button in the software. After a few seconds, the system will have collected data on that tall gauge block, and the next button becomes available. On the far right side, it says next. We can go ahead and press that button, and now we are prompted for the short gauge block. Let's place the short gauge block underneath the probe and move our hands out of the way, and let's press the record button there. After a few seconds, we are again presented with a next button. We can press that button, and our last prompt will be for the operator name, and we can adjust the date and time if it's not correct, and that records the person and the date and the time associated with this calibration. Once we accept that, we're back to our probe configuration or probe menu, and we can go ahead and calibrate the next probe. Hopefully you'll see through this that calibration is quite simple. After a few times through this, it may only take you 2 or 3 minutes to do it, and we will still have achieved very, very good accuracy. And if you have any questions or need further information, you can always find us at BrakeView.com. Thank you.